Okay, what I'd like to take a few moments to do is take you through the process of removing a unwanted background from an image you may have downloaded from the internet or a logo. Um, Again, if you do a Google search for Wyomissing Area School District and you're looking for the WA logo, you'll probably notice you'll find something along these lines. Whoops, I opened it twice. Uh, Again, a blue WA with a white background. And the white background, if you drag and drop this into a video project, quite honestly, if you drag it into a Word document, you'll notice that that white background shows up. And again, sometimes that works in a Word document on white paper. It's not a big deal. But if I place this into a video, I got this white background, which really just is not particularly attractive. What I want to take time to do is, what I'd like to take a moment to do is, I'm going to delete this, is show you how to eliminate that background. In this case, I have a document that we'll be creating, and you can see here that it has a transparent background. So when I put it on this video project, it's just the blue letters, the blue WA, and not the background, the white background. And this, again, you can use this in any of your other pieces of software, or a majority of your other pieces of software. In this case, it's for our video projects or our motion projects. So in order to go about doing this, I want to get started by taking that original JPEG, a common image format which you'll download from like a Google image search. And I'm going to open this, but I'm going to open it with Photoshop. Now, what I'd first recommend you do is make this as big as possible, so that way you're not having to deal with zooming. So I'm going to get this as big so it fills the entire screen. And the first tool I want to use is the magnetic lasso tool. Third tool down on the toolbar on the left-hand side here. If I press and click on it, there's a few lasso tool options. In this case, we want the magnetic lasso tool, which was already selected for me, but that's where you find the magnetic lasso tool. A few things with this tool. Along the top toolbar, you'll notice it's looking for a width, a contrast, and a frequency. These three settings are things you'll have to learn to play with in order to get the desired results you're after, depending on the image you're trying to work with. In this case, I got a white background with a blue WA symbol on it. These two colors are very bold and very different. They have a great deal of contrast, so therefore I can set a relatively high contrast number, and 25 tends to be a pretty high contrast number. I might be able to go a little bit higher than that before I have any other. I mean, I can actually probably go pretty high with this because, again, the high level of contrast, but in our case, I think 25 or 26, 27.8% might be a really good area. Also, the width is going to be dependent on when you're scrolling along the edge of this drawing, the edge of this shape, how far it's going to search either way to look for this kind of contrast, pixel contrast. So the difference between these pixels. The difference between a white pixel and a blue pixel is a great deal. And I can increase or decrease how far it's going to search based on how difficult it is to follow this edge. 25 in this case I think is going to be pretty good. I could go up a little bit or down a little bit depending on, again, the variation of the different styles of artwork you're dealing with. The final thing is the frequency. As you draw a path along the border, as you try and capture out this WA, you are going to want to set a bunch of points along that path to make sure that your line is very accurate. The higher you go with this number, the more of these key points it's going to try and set. The lower the number, the fewer number of points. By default, this is probably a much lower number than 90, but I like a nice high number so it follows right along with the path that I'm creating. So these are the numbers I'm using for the WA. You'll have to play around with it and go up or down depending on what's working for you. hopefully you understand how these work. Pixel width is the distance from your cursor to that contrasting edge. The contrast number or percentage is dealing with the amount of contrast. If you were dealing with a gray background and a blue letter, this contrast number would have to be smaller because there's less contrast, and you won't get away with as much. If you had a greater deal of contrast, black and white is a great deal of contrast, you can go up higher with this number. But I'm going to start off with 27. Also, the little Q, little pointer on this tool is hanging at the very bottom edge of it. So when I click, that's where it's looking to go. And I'm going to drag myself right along the edge of this WA. And again, the higher the frequency number, the more of these little dots are going to be created along this path, and the more accurate the path should become. So I'm dragging along here, and even though I go off of the path slightly, what it's doing is pulling it back to the path because of the width which I've set up at the top toolbar as well. So if you got to drift further away from the line, or you're having difficulty staying close to the line, you can increase that width and it will pull it back a little bit further. However, once you get started, I would really try and stay as close to the line as possible for the best possible results. And again, I will start scrolling along here. If you go slower, you'll end up with more points and you'll end up with a little bit better result. I find that if you go too fast and you spread these dots out too far, your results kind of degrade or become, it's not, the results are less. So take your time as you scroll along that edge of your drawing or picture, whatever it is you downloaded. In this case, I'm going to complete the WA, so it's going to take me a second here and I'll go all the way around this WA's perimeter. If it doesn't seem to want to jump to the corners and it's giving you an arc along the edge because it's kind of skipping the corners, if you want it to stick to the corner and do a better job sticking to the corner, if you do a good job placing your cursor, you can also click during this process and it will snap one of those little balls or little points directly on that point which you click on, especially if there's an area where the contrast is less and you want to try and jump out of your existing path. You can click anywhere you wish and it will jump or alter the path slightly. When I get back to my starting point, I will get a little circle on my cursor, and hopefully you can see that. It's a tiny little circle on the cursor. It means it's going to close the path, and you must click on it. Once that has happened, I get this dancing ants border, this live selection space. Again, acknowledge the fact that that's there and you've already closed one path. Now, one final thing I want to do is I want to remove this white portion from the inside as well. In order to do that with the magnetic lasso tool, you need to hold down the option button when you get started to ensure that you are subtracting this from the larger blue selection which you've already created. So I'm going to come back. Again, perform the trace that I've already started here. And once it gets to that 0, that little circle in the corner of the magnetic lasso tool and click, it will now close that inner loop. So now I've selected completely the WA in blue from the white background, and I have a very nice edge. If you want to add or subtract or edit one of these edges, again, you must always create a complete loop with the magnetic lasso tool, and either the shift button has a little plus sign on it, will allow you to add information to that selection. If you hold the option button, it will remove a hole within that that blue boundary. So again, just the way in which the tool will work. Taking this selection, I'm going to cover in a second video.